When I was 10 years old, I marched into the kitchen, grabbed some lemons, water, ice, and sugar, and made my first pitcher of lemonade. Alright, I'll be honest, it was my mom who made it, but this was one of my first businesses. I walked outside to the curb with the table, set up my lemonade stand, and by the end of the day, I was a 4th grader with $50. I think by the time I got to 5th grade, I did this 1 or 2 more times with some of my friends. Sure, the money was nice, but it was a ton of fun running a lemonade stand with some of your best friends. So if you're one of my younger viewers, and I'm talking like elementary school, a classic lemonade stand might be a pretty good way to make some money. In this video, I'm going to break down 6 ways that you can make money while in school. And no, I'm not going to say crypto, and I'm not going to say dropshipping, and I'm not going to promise these methods are going to make you a lot of money. What I will promise is that these methods might give you some nice side income while you're a student, and nothing more unless you get really lucky. Now, some methods are easier than others, and we're going to cover the pros and cons of each. And we're also going to rank each method on a scale from 1 to 10 based on earning potential, flexibility, stability, and difficulty. So when I left elementary school and got to middle school, that's when I started my second business. Now you might be saying, Gohar, I'm in high school or college, stop giving me these methods for 13-year-olds. Don't worry, this is for you too. So at the age of 12 or 13, I started my first gaming blog. And this was the start of my foray into SEO, or search engine optimization. In other words, I wrote articles and blog posts about different video games. Those posts surprisingly ranked kind of high on Google, and I ended up getting thousands of visitors to my site. Now the way I made money off of this was by using Google AdSense. So I ran banner ads across my websites, and whenever someone would click on them, I would make some money. Now the great part about this is that the money becomes relatively passive after some time. The articles stay up, you continue to get views over the course of months or maybe even years, and you keep making a few bucks here and there. So I'm not going to dive into SEO techniques or how that works in this video. That's just outside the scope of what I upload on this channel. But if you're even remotely interested in graphic design, web development, writing, I would recommend looking up a few videos about SEO or blogging in general. So the pros: somewhat passive and you get to hone your designing and writing skills, but the cons: extremely steep learning curve. It takes a long time for content to actually start ranking on Google, and there's a lot of competition. In terms of earning potential, I'd give this a 7. In terms of flexibility, I'd give this an 8. In terms of stability, I'd give it a 5. And in terms of difficulty, I'd give it an 8. Alright, so with that really weird niche method out of the way, let's get to the next method: getting a part-time job. If you're in high school, this will probably be some sort of food service or retail job. If you're in college, it could be one of those, but it could also be a campus job. I remember during college, I did get one campus job. It was called Tech Callers, and essentially me and a bunch of other students would sit at desks for a couple hours a day calling alumni and asking for donations. It wasn't the most exciting part of my life. Now, a really big pro about this method that you probably won't get with the other methods is stability. This is the main option that really gives you a steady, predictable income. You get a structured work environment, you get to hone your skills, and you also get the opportunity for socializing. You get to make friends and talk to people, whereas with the other methods, you'll probably do pretty isolated work. Now the cons: it will be more time intensive, it will be more stressful, especially if you're in the customer service realm. Dealing with grumpy or annoyed customers is never a good time. You tend to have limited pay, like sure you'll have more steady income, but it will probably be minimum wage. And you might have less flexibility. For example, you might have to work weekends or late evenings. Alright, as for ratings, for earning potential, I'll give this a 4. For flexibility, I'll give this a 5. For stability, I'll give it a 7. And for difficulty, I'll give it a 5. Alright, but if you're okay with a little less stability and potentially more money, I would recommend looking for what I call neighborhood jobs. Think tutoring, babysitting, pet sitting, landscaping. You'll definitely be able to make a lot more than minimum wage. For example, there are some tutors who charge 30, 40, 50, 60 an hour, and if you did well on the SAT or the ACT or did well in any of your classes, you'll probably be able to charge at least 20 to 30 an hour. And personally, I did do a little bit of tutoring during college. Of course, not in my neighborhood, so it wasn't really like a neighborhood job, but I did it online, and to be honest, it was a lot better than having a campus job. So some of the pros: flexibility and higher pay. Some of the cons: less stability. For example, you might not have a consistent schedule. You will have to prepare before each of your lessons, and you might sometimes have to deal with challenging students. Maybe they'll misbehave or won't listen, and you'll have to deal with that. Alright, so ratings: earning potential, I give this a 6. Flexibility, I give this an 8. Stability, I'll give this a 5, and difficulty, I'll give this a 6. Alright, next, if you want a job where you really don't have to be in person, you can explore freelancing. A very simple version of freelancing is selling your skills online. For example, if you're really good at designing or coding or editing, you can offer these services on a website like Fiverr. Now, generally, you will have to be 18 or older to use freelancing websites, but I believe Fiverr allows teens to use the site with parental consent. Some of the pros, you have extreme flexibility. You get to choose when you want to work and where you want to work from. But one of the cons is that on a website like Fiverr, there will be a ton of competition, so it will be hard to stand out. And when it comes to freelancing, I give it a 7 for earning potential, 9 for flexibility, 6 for stability, and 7 for difficulty. Alright, next up is another method that I used throughout middle school and still use today: creating content. So remember how I said how I wrote all those gaming articles? Well, I also made gaming YouTube videos. And this was like 10 years ago. Now, back in the day, I was actually making more money from blogging than from YouTube, but nowadays it's probably the other way around. Honestly, I had so much fun making videos back in the day, and I feel like some of my best childhood memories come from this time. Now, when it comes to creating content, you'll generally make money in one of two ways: through ads or through brand deals. Ad revenue is slightly more stable than brand deals, but brand deals will probably make you more money than ads. One of the biggest pros is that you have unbounded creativity. Sure, you kind of have that with freelancing or SEO, but when you're creating content, it always feels like you're working on your own little art project, so if you're artistic in any way, you'll probably have fun even if you don't make any money. Some other pros, you get to set your own schedule. Sometimes you have networking opportunities. For example, you'll probably have the chance to make new friends just by making content. It won't happen right away, but generally you'll tend to meet more people in your niche over time, and you get to kind of form a little community of creators. And personally, I feel like I'm finally starting to find that community myself, and it's great. Now, some cons when it comes to creating content: you need to be very disciplined. Yes, you have flexibility, and yes, you can upload whenever you want, but if you are trying to make content a serious income stream, you will probably have to upload pretty consistently to get started. And on top of that, you will need to be very patient. Going viral overnight does not happen for most people, and you'll probably have to upload dozens of videos before you gain any traction. Now, if you have never created content before, I would honestly recommend getting started with short form content because it's quicker to make and it'll help you pick up the skills you'll eventually need to make long form YouTube videos. Alright, so when it comes to creating content, I give it a 7 for earning potential, I give it a 7 for flexibility, a 5 for stability, and a 7 for difficulty. Alright, and if you're still watching at this point, I'm guessing you're very entrepreneurial. So honestly, a method with probably the biggest potential upside is starting a business. Now sure, you could technically count freelancing or creating content as having your own business, but right now I'm talking about selling a product or a service. So when it comes to the service, sure, it could be coding or graphic design or writing, kind of like with freelancing, but this time instead of using a third-party platform, you could just make your own website. Now when it comes to selling a product, I wouldn't recommend drop shipping. Instead of selling the same pre-made cheap products that everyone else is selling, if you're young and if you're ambitious, take this time to maybe develop your own product. Think about the problems you encounter in your everyday life and the solutions you wish existed. Again, I think you'll be much better off if you take this time to develop your product sense and your marketing ability and overall your creative thinking skills. So some of the pros: you get to be independent, you don't have a boss, you get to develop skills, there's a lot of potential upside. In terms of the cons, it is very time consuming, you'll probably need upfront capital, and dealing with legal and regulatory requirements is kind of annoying. And a very general theme is that the more money you potentially want to make, the more risk you'll have to tolerate. If you're very entrepreneurial, start a business. If you're not entrepreneurial at all, I recommend getting a part-time job. And make sure with whatever method you choose, be patient, prioritize your health, and prioritize your academics.